Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this lecture, we'll look at the book one of the famous book of Adam Smith called as the Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations, or in short, it's also called as The Wealth of Nations. It's a book by Adam Smith written in 1776. It's a classic and it affects the discipline of economics until today. So one of the primary concepts of the book is the idea of wealth. So before Adam Smith, the mercantilists defined wealth as the accumulation of gold and silver. However, Adam Smith challenged that definition, and in his view, wealth is the national product, the the production in an economy. So a nation's wealth is its per capita national product, the amount that the average person actually produces. So for any given mix of resources that a country might possess, the size of this per capita product will depend on the proportion of the population who are in productive work. So the higher the number of people working as laborers, as workers, the higher will be the production. And at the same time, their productivity, their skills and efficiency will also affect the productivity. So higher the efficiency and the skill of the labor, higher will be the GDP or the production. So at the time when Adam Smith came up with this idea of wealth, this was a huge innovation because the prevailing wisdom was that wealth consisted in money in precious metals like gold and silver. And Smith insists that real wealth is in fact the annual produce of the land and labor of the society. So it's not the gold and silver, it is the product, it is the national product, or what we call as GDP or GNP today. Another key idea of the book is the issue of efficiency through specialization. And according to Adam Smith, the key to economic efficiency is through specialization, through the division of labor. So, for example, he says that if one person makes pin from start to finish, then he would be able to produce less than 20 pins per day. However, if the task was divided among 10 people, then collectively they could make 48,000 pins per day. So that will increase the productivity because each person can specialize in different parts of the operation. So one person will draw out the wire, another person will straighten it, a third person will cut the wire, a fourth person will point it, a fifth person will grind the top of the wire, a sixth person will make the head, and similarly someone will apply the head, another person will be responsible for whitening the pins, and finally the last person will be responsible for packaging. So instead of one person doing the whole process himself, if the task can be divided into several tasks, and there is a specialist for drawing the wires, a specialist for cutting the wire, a specialist for grinding, and so on, then the productivity will increase thousands of times. So this was the one of the key arguments of Adam Smith in the book, and he said that specialization has made the process of production thousands of times more productive through specialized operations. Another idea in the book is the idea of moving away from self-sufficiency to market-oriented production. So, for example, farming becomes much more efficient if the farmers can spend all their time tending their land and focusing on the agriculture rather than making their own household items. So instead of the farmer splitting his time between making his shoes and farming and also making his tables and chairs, if the farmer only focuses on the farming and then he goes to the market and sells his produce, then that's more efficient and more productive. So similarly, the furniture makers can produce far more household goods if they do not have to dissipate their efforts on growing their own food too. So the manufacturers can just focus on manufacturing their goods and not worry about producing goods. So they can focus all their energies on manufacturing, and then with the goods they can go to the market and sell and buy the food. So they specialized not within not only within the manufacturing line, but also across the various trades. They all specialize in their own professions. So similarly, at an international level, also Adam Smith argued that whole countries should specialize. So when they specialize, they focus on producing the goods which they specialize in and exporting the goods, and then using the income they import other commodities that they need. So at all levels, at individual level and at the national level and international level, specialization is a good thing. It increases productivity. It focuses the attention, and then that specialization leads to higher productivity, higher output. Specialization increases the efficiency for three main reasons. So there are three reasons why specialization or the division of labor increases the efficiency. The first reason is the improvement in the skill. So when people do the same task repeatedly, they get really good at it. So skilled workers can do their jobs quickly and effectively because they have practiced so much. The second reason is no switching of tasks. So there is less time wasted. So switching between different tasks takes time and effort. For example, if someone has to stop weaving to go to the farm, they lose time getting tools, moving around, and refocusing. So specialization avoids this by letting people focus on one job. So they don't have to switch from farming to production of shoes and tables. So they can focus all their time on farming. The manufacturer can focus all their time on manufacturing. They don't have to switch between tasks. The third reason is better tools and machines. So specialization allows for the use of specialized tools and machines designed for specific tasks. These tools save time and effort, making the production faster and easier. So workers or specialized machine makers often create these tools to make their job simpler. So in summary, specialization helps people get better at what they do. It reduces the wasted time and allows for the use of efficient and better tools. And all of these three reasons boost productivity of the workers. So Adam Smith dwells on the power of cooperation. When we divide work among many people, it requires a lot of cooperation. Even making something as simple as a woolen coat involves thousands of people working together. For example, shepherds raise the sheep, workers sort, clean, dye, and spin the wool. Tailors make the coat, miners and metal workers create the tools needed to cut the wool, sailors and shipbuilders help transport the material. So the process of making a woolen coat requires thousands of people coordinating and specializing in their own trades. So the shepherd is specializing in his own trade. The spinners, the miners, the sailors, all of them are specializing in one and only one task. And then all of this comes together to produce goods and services. Now, even a simple court is the result of many people with different skills working together. This kind of teamwork and this kind of division of labor leads to the overall welfare of the people. And according to Adam Smith, this is the reason why the developed countries are wealthy, since they divide the labor, they specialize, and that leads to a higher productivity and production. So by specialization and working together, we can produce things much more efficiently. So we'll have higher production, and then the higher production will lead to lower prices. So there will be better productivity, higher production, and cheap prices. This means even the poor people can afford things like clothes, food, and other goods that would be too expensive if everyone had to make everything themselves. So the specialization and the division of labor helps to reduce the cost and reduce the price of things. So even simple products require many people with different skills to work together. This cooperation and division of labor allows us to produce more goods at lower cost. Everybody benefits because things are made more efficiently. They become cheaper. Even the poorest people can afford things they couldn't otherwise. So in summary, specialization and teamwork are the keys to a prosperous society. They make life easier, cheaper, and better for everyone. Now, the next idea of Adam Smith is very powerful and very popular. And he says, it is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. So in this quote, Adam Smith is shedding light on the motivations of the economic agents in the market. And he's saying that all the economic agents, i.e. the consumers and the producers, they come to the market with self-interest. So they don't have charitable intentions, rather they are self-interested. And self-interest drives trade, which leads to specialization, which enhances efficiency and overall economic prosperity. Specialization allows individuals to focus on what they do best, trading surpluses for other needed goods, creating a cycle of productivity and growth that benefits all the parties involved. So let's look at how self-interest leads to trade. So people trade because it benefits them personally. So the butcher, the brewer, and the baker, they come to the market, they open a shop. They do that not for any charitable purpose, but rather for their self-interest to make money. So a baker trades bread for wheat because it's easier than growing wheat themselves, and a farmer trades wheat for bread because it's easier than baking bread themselves. So both parties focus on what they're good at, i.e. baking or farming, and they trade to get what they need. So that's the first idea, that people cannot produce everything, so they have to trade. And trade is based on self-interest. Each trader is looking after his own self-interest. Okay, so self-interest leads to exchange. Self-interest drives exchange. So self-interested people, they want other goods. To get those goods, they have to enter into an exchange contract. And this is not out of kindness, but it's for benefit, and both parties um, gain from the exchange. Now, trade encourages specialization. Specialization grew from our natural tendency to exchange. So once people realize they can trade for things they need, they start focusing more on what they are best at. So for example, the baker might stop trying to grow wheat and spend all their time baking bread. So the baker knows that if I produce excess breads, then I can sell them in the market, get some extra money, and buy wheat and buy clothes and so on. So trading leads to specialization. So similarly, the farmer might stop trying to bake bread and focus all his time on growing wheat. This is specialization. So each person concentrates on the task they are most skilled at or efficient in. So the first step is trading. So I cannot produce everything, so I need to trade. Now, to be able to trade, I need to have some surplus. So if I just make one bread a day and I eat it, I don't have anything to trade. So to be able to trade, I need to have a surplus. To be able to have a surplus, I need to specialize. I need to make two or more breads to be able to specialize. And then I will be in a position to trade. So trade leads to specialization. So people produce a surplus which can be traded in the market. So when people specialize, they get better at their specific task because they practice it over and over. So for example, the baker becomes an expert at baking and the farmer becomes an expert at farming. This means they can produce more bread or wheat in less time, making both of them more productive. And as people specialize and become more efficient, they produce more than they need for themselves. This surplus can be traded with others. So, for example, the baker might bake an extra bread to trade for not just wheat, but also for clothes, tools, and other goods. This creates a cycle. More specialization leads to more trade, which leads to even more specialization and efficiency. So imagine a small village with three people. So we have a baker, we have a farmer, and we have a tailor. Okay, so the baker makes bread, a farmer grows wheat, and the tailor makes clothes. So the baker wants wheat for bread and clothes to wear. The farmer wants bread to eat and clothes to wear. And the tailor wants bread to eat and wheat to make flour. So each of the three people need the other two. So imagine that they're all self-interested and each person needs the other two people. So what happens? So instead of each person trying to do everything, so this guy is a baker. So instead of he spending his time farming and spending his time tailoring and making clothes, what he would do is this guy will specialize in baking bread. So he'll make surplus breads, and this guy will make surplus, this farmer will make surplus wheat, and then this tailor will make surplus clothes. So with the surplus clothes, he will buy the wheat and the bread, and similarly with the surplus wheat, he will buy clothes and bread and so on. So each of the three people will be self-interested, will specialize in his own trade and expertise, and then with the surplus, he would trade and satisfy his needs. So the result is everyone gets what they need without having to do everything themselves. The village becomes more productive and wealthier because each person is focusing on what they do best. So self-interest makes people realize they can get more of what they want by trading. Trading encourages people to focus on what they are best at, and the specialization makes everyone more efficient, which leads to more trade and a better economy. So why we exchange? People naturally exchange because we cannot produce everything ourselves. That's clear. And there is a distinction between self-interest and greed. So Adam Smith says that people trade not out of kindness, but because it benefits them. And he says this is natural. He says people are naturally self-interested. So the butcher sells meat because he's self-interested and not because he's generous. This is natural and okay. It's a normal concern for well-being. And he defines this as prudence in his theory of moral sentiments, that people are naturally self-interested, and this is okay. Self-interest in the marketplace is good. It leads to good outcomes. So self-interest maybe in the social life is bad, but in the marketplace, being selfish, self-interested is fine. It leads to good outcomes for everyone. So the other idea is the idea of mutual gain, and he says that everyone wins. So when we trade, both sides win. So one side give up something you value less. So for example, you pay $5 and you get food, you get um, a meal, a dinner meal. So that means that the value to you, your personal value of that food is more than $5. So the $5 values less and the food values more. So by paying the $5 and getting food, you are actually adding value. You're gaining more value from the exchange. So it's a win-win. And the person selling the food is getting more value by getting those $5. So from the seller's perspective, the $5 are more valuable and the food is less valuable. However, from the buyer's perspective, the food is more valuable and the $5 are less valuable. So it's a win-win situation. Trade adds value. That's an important point, because trade used to be considered as a zero-sum game, i.e., the one party was a seller and the other party was a loser, because one party was losing gold, and losing gold was a big thing in the mercantilist thinking. However, Adam Smith challenges that notion and says that if you lose gold, it doesn't matter then, because you're getting something in return which is more valuable. So it's a win-win situation. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not. There is no loser and winner. Trade adds value, and both sides benefit. Okay. Um, Cooperation without kindness. So even people who are very different can work together through trade. They don't have to like each other. They just need to be self-interested, and they need to offer something in the marketplace. Okay, so the final point is that historically money was seen in the mercantilist era as the primary measure of wealth. So the countries were placing restrictions on trade to prevent money from leaking, from leaving a community or a country. So whether it was the buyer, whether it was the nation, all of them wanted to save the money. But Adam Smith showed that when you lose the money and trade with that, you get some goods and services. Those goods and services add value to your life more than the money. So he changed the perception of money. The next idea is the idea of the market size. So the bigger the market, the more opportunities there are for people to specialize and benefit from trade. So in a large city, there is the highest specialization. In town markets, there is mixed specialization, and in remote areas, there is no specialization. So there is a spectrum from low to high, from rural to towns to cities. There is a degree of specialization. So people in cities are highly specialized, and in the towns, they have to multitask, and in the remote areas, the family has to do everything themselves. So specialization depends on the market size. So the bigger the market, the higher the specialization. The higher the specialization, the higher the efficiency and the productivity. So people specialize in what they're good at because they can trade their surplus with others. So in a large city, they can specialize, they can create a surplus and then sell that surplus for whatever they want to buy. However, in the remote village, for example, if you create surplus, there are no traders. You cannot trade. There is not a big market, so there will be less specialization or no specialization in village or remote areas. So big markets means more specialization. So in big towns or cities, there are lots of people. So specialized jobs like a porter who carries goods can exist because there's enough demand. So there are higher number of professions as well. So there are more number of jobs, more number of professions, and high specialization. Similarly, a baker in a city can focus only on baking bread because there are enough customers to buy it. And small markets means less specialization. So in remote areas with few people, everyone has to do many jobs themselves. So for example, a family in the Scottish Highlands might have to grow their own food, bake their own bread, and build their own furniture because there aren't enough people to trade with. In small towns, a blacksmith or carpenter might have to do many types of work like fixing tools, building furniture, and making wagons because there aren't enough customers for just one type of work. So the idea is the bigger the market, the bigger the specialization and bigger the efficiency and the gains. So when markets are large, people can specialize more deeply, which makes them more efficient and productive. This leads to more trade, more goods and services, and a better standard of living for everyone. So the idea is the higher the specialization, the more is the output, the more is the productivity, there is more trade, and the goods are available at a lower cost. So that leads to universal opulence or the benefit of all the people in the economy. So the size of the market determines how much people can specialize. Bigger markets allow for more specialization, which leads to greater efficiency and more benefits for everyone. The next discussion is about money and value. It's quite an interesting discussion. And first of all, Adam Smith discusses why money exists, and he subscribes to the view that money serves as a medium of exchange, and we have moved from a barter economy to a monetary economy over time. So in society where people specialize, they rely on trading with others to get what they need. But trading the goods directly, like swapping bread for wheat or bread for clothes, is difficult because of the issue of double coincidence of wants. So you need to have what the other person wants, and the other person needs to have what you want. So this is the issue of double coincidence of wants. So the barter is cumbersome and difficult to do. Therefore, what you require is a third commodity, which is money, to make the trade easier. So the society invented money as a common item of a common value, which everyone agrees to accept in exchange for goods or services. So over time, metals like gold and silver became the standard for money because of their durability, because of they are easy to divide, they are divisible, and they can be made into coins with set values. So he goes into the history of money, that in Homer's time, cattle was the money. In India, shells were considered as money. In Virginia, tobacco was money. Salt in Abyssinia, dried cod in Newfoundland, metal coins in Rome, and there is a transition which happens over the ages. So we moved from different forms of barter and money to gold and silver. So that's the discussion on money. The next discussion on value is quite interesting. So there are two types of value: value in use and value in exchange. So value in use means how useful something is. For example, water is extremely useful for survival, but is cheap or free because it's plentiful. It has zero exchange value, or it has a low exchange value. So in terms of money, water is free. It has a cost of $0, but it's very useful for survival. People cannot survive without water, but that's the use value is high, but the exchange value is zero or very low. The second concept is value in exchange, how much something can be traded for. So what's the price of something? So diamonds, for example, are not very useful, but they are quite expensive because they are rare and people value them. The price of diamonds is very high. The exchange value is high. And Adam Smith wondered why that was the case. Why was water so cheap while it was so useful? and on the other hand, diamonds are useless, but they're very expensive. So Adam Smith spent a lot of thinking, and he concluded that it is actually the labor which gives value to objects. So Adam Smith argued that the real value of something comes from the labor required to produce it. The reason why we put effort into creating a product is because we want to spare ourselves the effort of creating the things we buy. So I repeat, the reason why we put effort into creating the product we sell is precisely to spare ourselves the effort of creating the things we buy. So we don't want to buy everything. So if I am a baker, I don't want to make clothes. So I make an extra bread to be able to buy the clothes. So so my extra bread is an exchange for the clothes. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm creating excess bread that I can sell so that I don't have to create the clothes. So what essentially we are doing is we're exchanging bread with clothes, i.e. we are exchanging the labor of making the bread with the labor of making the clothes. So we are exchanging labor for labor. So when we trade, what we are buying is the labor of others. So when I sell an extra bread in the market, I'm selling my labor, I'm selling my efforts. And then I take that money and go and buy some clothes. So I'm buying the efforts, or I'm buying the labor of the tailor. So that's what I'm doing. So what is being exchanged in the market, the price is the labor value. So the exchange value or the price is the labor which goes into producing something. So when we trade, we are essentially trading the effort. We're trading the labor we put into making something for the effort someone else has put into making something else. For example, a baker trades bread made with their labor for money, which they can use to buy clothes. Ultimately, wealth is not money. I repeat, wealth is not money. It is the amount of other people's labor that we can purchase. So money is just a tool to make the trading easier. It's a medium of exchange. It's not really the actual wealth. The wealth is the goods and services, of course, and which is the labor of others. So money represents the value of labor. So money stores. So if you sell a bread for $5, so your $5 is storing 1 hour of labor, for example. So that's the store of labor. So it represents the value of labor. So money, that coin, that paper, a $5 bill actually is 1 hour of labor. It represents, it stores 1 hour of labor. And then when you exchange that $5 for a t-shirt, you are exchanging your 1 hour of labor for that t-shirt. So the real measure of value is labor, how much work goes into making something. If it takes a lot of work to grow wheat, the wheat will be more expensive. If it's easy to get water, water will be cheap. So to be able to procure water from the river, you just need to put a basket and take it. So very little labor involved, therefore the value is low, the price is low. On the other hand, farming requires more efforts, so the agricultural produce has a price. Tables need a lot of labor effort, so the tables have a high price and so on. So that's Adam Smith's labor theory of value. So the next discussion is on the factors of production, and Adam Smith recognized 3 factors of production, i.e. the labor, the capital, and the land. So now there is some ambiguity. Now, if you remember in the previous section, we said that in Adam Smith's view, labor is the sole source of exchange value. However, there is some ambiguity because now he introduces capital and land also as part of the price. So labor plus the reward of the capital plus the reward of the land is equal to the price. So it can be said that Adam Smith leaned towards the labor theory of value, especially in an early state scenario where there is free land and no capital. But his analysis of a developed economy where there are machines and landowners, he departs from the simple labor theory as explained in the earlier section. So he recognizes capital, machines, and the land as factors of production and contributing to the value, and price actually incorporates the rewards for the labor, rewards for the capital, and rewards for the land. So let's start with a primitive hunting society. In a simple society where people hunt and gather, labor is the only thing needed to produce goods. Land is free and there are no machines. So this is a primitive society, and this matches with the previous analysis where labor is the only factor of production, and price is the labor value. So for example, if it takes twice as much effort in this primitive economy to hunt a beaver as it does to hunt a deer, then one beaver should be worth two deers in trade. So if you require um, twice as much labor effort, then the value is twice as much. So in this society, the hunter keeps everything they produce because there's no private land or machines yet. Okay, so the entire product goes to the hunter and is equal to the labor. So the value is equal to the labor. Now, when capital and employers, landlords appear in the scenario, so as societies develop, people start using tools, machines, and other forms of capital to produce goods. When someone owns capital and hires worker, the product is shared. So workers get wages for their labor. The employers get profit for providing the capital. So profits aren't based on the employer's work, but on the value of the capital they employ. So you could have a scenario where there are two factors of production, labor and capital coming together, and you can have a scenario where there are three factors of production, i.e. the labor, the capital, and land coming together. So when land is privately owned and you're doing a business on that piece of land, then the landlord will ask for a rent. So the landlord will get a rent, the capital owner will get the profits, and the labor will get the wage. So the farmers must pay rent to the landlords to grow crops. Now the price is shared among three groups. The workers will get the wages, the employers, uh, the capital owners will get the profits, and the landlord will get the rent. So the price of any product includes the cost of the three factors of production: rent, rent for the landlord, wages for the laborer, and profits for the capital owner. So P is equal to W plus P plus R. So the price is equal to wage plus profits plus the rent. So the price of wheat includes the farmer's wages, the landlord's rent, and the farmer's profit, for example. So so Adam Smith is departing from his earlier theory or earlier discussion where the exchange value is only comprising of the laborer's wage. Here he's having a more developed and nuanced understanding and expression of the factors of production. Finally, you can have one person taking on multiple roles. For example, a farmer might also own the land, so he would be the landlord and he could provide the tools, the machines. So he could be the farmer, could be the landlord, he could also own the capital, and he could also work on his own land. So he could be like three factors in production, three in one, or so on. It could be in any other combination. So in this case, this farmer who is the owner of the land, he gets the profit and the rent of the land, and also he gets the wage. So depending on how that is divided. So in short, in a simple society, labor is the only factor of production and the worker keeps everything. That's the primitive society. And then in a more advanced society where there are two or three factors of production, then the price is shared between the three factors of production, i.e. the laborer, capital owner, and the landlord. So we'll continue in the next part. We'll stop the session here for now. Thank you for watching.